Long ago, at the edge of a deep, dark forest, there lived a poor woodcutter with his 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. Times were hard, and there was often very little food in the house. Their stepmother, who was a harsh and selfish woman, often complained. One night, when the children were already in bed, Hansel overheard his stepmother whispering to their father. "We cannot feed everyone," she said cruelly. "Tomorrow we must take the children deep into the forest and leave them there. They will not find their way back." The poor father shook his head sadly. "But they are my children," he said. "How can I abandon them?" But the stepmother insisted until he reluctantly agreed. Hansel, lying awake, heard every word. He comforted his sister Gretel. "Don't worry, dear sister," he whispered. "I will think of something." When everyone was asleep, Hansel quietly slipped out of the house. The moon was shining bright, and he filled his pockets with small white pebbles that glittered in the moonlight. Then he returned to bed, smiling to himself. The next morning, the stepmother gave the children a small piece of bread each. "Here is your food for the journey," she said coldly. Then she led them into the forest with their father. As they walked, Hansel secretly dropped the shiny pebbles, one by one, making a path behind them. Finally, the stepmother left them deep in the forest. "Stay here, children," she said sternly. "We will return for you soon." But Hansel and Gretel knew she was lying. Night fell, and the children sat by the fire until it burned out. Gretel began to cry. "We are lost, Hansel," she sobbed. "Don't be afraid," Hansel said softly. "Look at the ground." And when the moon rose, the pebbles sparkled brightly, leading them home. By morning, the children had returned safely. Their father was overjoyed, though their stepmother was furious. Sadly, a few days later, there was no food left again. The cruel stepmother once more convinced the father to take the children into the forest. This time, Hansel tried to collect pebbles, but the door was locked. So, instead, he crumbled his piece of bread and dropped crumbs along the path. Deeper and deeper into the forest they went. The stepmother abandoned them again. "Stay here, children," she lied. But when the moon rose, Hansel looked for the crumbs. Alas! The birds of the forest had eaten them all. There was no trail to follow. Hansel and Gretel wandered through the dark woods, hungry and afraid. For 3 days, they searched for food. At last, they stumbled upon something wonderful. In a sunny clearing stood a little house made entirely of sweets. The walls were gingerbread, the roof was covered in sugar, and the windows sparkled with candy. Hungry and amazed, the children ran forward. Hansel broke off a piece of the roof, while Gretel tasted the sugar window. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and out stepped an old woman leaning on a cane. She looked kind and gentle. "Oh, dear children," she said sweetly, "you must be starving. Come inside, and I will feed you." The children, not knowing she was really a wicked witch, eagerly followed her. Inside, the table was filled with cakes, milk, apples, and nuts. Hansel and Gretel ate until they could eat no more. That night, they slept in soft little beds, believing they had finally found safety. But the next morning, they learned the truth. The witch grabbed Hansel and locked him in a cage. "Now I will fatten you up," she cackled, "and soon I shall eat you." Poor Gretel was forced to do chores. Each day, the witch demanded Hansel stretch out his finger so she could feel if he was fat enough. But clever Hansel held out a thin chicken bone instead. Because the witch's eyes were weak, she thought he was still too thin. Impatient, the witch finally screamed, "Enough! Whether fat or thin, tomorrow I shall eat you." She ordered Gretel to heat the oven. The little girl trembled with fear. "Check if the oven is hot enough," the witch commanded, pushing Gretel forward. But Gretel pretended not to understand. "How do I look inside?" she asked innocently. "Like this," the witch snapped, leaning forward. Quick as lightning, Gretel pushed her into the oven and slammed the door shut. The witch shrieked and pounded, but it was too late. Gretel freed Hansel, and the 2 children hugged tightly, overjoyed to be safe at last. As they explored the witch's house, they discovered chests filled with gold and jewels. "These will help father," Hansel said, stuffing his pockets. Hand in hand, they left the cottage and soon found their way home. Their father ran to them with tears of joy. "My children, you are alive," he cried. The cruel stepmother was gone, and the family was reunited. With the witch's treasures, they never went hungry again. And from that day on, Hansel and Gretel lived happily with their loving father, safe and content.